debunking the myth of a woman's worth lies in her husband. There's a saying many women have heard in one form or another: women are judged by the quality of their husbands. It's a belief that has silently shaped the way society views women's success, not just by who they are, but by who stands beside them. A woman with a wealthy, attentive, or attractive husband is often admired, even envied. But it's time to pause and ask, is this really the measure of a woman's worth? If a woman's value is defined by someone else's achievements or behavior, doesn't that strip her of her own identity? It creates an unfair framework, one that minimizes her personal journey, her strengths, her growth, and her contributions. It turns a woman into a reflection of someone else, rather than allowing her to be recognized for who she truly is. More importantly, this belief keeps women in a constant comparison loop. It suggests that some are better or luckier simply because of the partners they attract. But a fulfilling life is not a competition, and a good relationship, while meaningful, should never be the sole indicator of success. From a personal lens, I believe it's far more empowering to evaluate ourselves based on internal values: emotional intelligence, integrity, resilience, kindness. These are the qualities that carry us through both love and loss, and they exist regardless of anyone else's presence. A good partner may enhance your journey, but they do not define it. Women deserve to be seen not as extensions of their relationships, but as whole individuals. In a world still shedding outdated ideals, perhaps one of the bravest things a woman can do is to stop measuring her worth by someone else's shadow and start honoring her own light. 1. True value lies in character, not in a partner's status. There's an unspoken hierarchy that still echoes through modern society, one that quietly ranks a woman's worth based on her partner's profession or wealth. Her husband is a successful businessman, she married well, or her partner is high status. These statements often carry an underlying assumption that a woman is more valuable, more respectable, or even luckier simply because of the person she is with. But here's a deeper truth that often gets lost in such assumptions. Real worth is internal, not borrowed. A woman's presence and dignity stem from within, not from who walks beside her. Temper, an elegant Vietnamese term, can be understood as a blend of poise, presence, emotional intelligence, and inner strength. It cannot be bought with money, achieved through marriage, or gifted by external recognition. It is cultivated through life experience, self-respect, and emotional maturity. A woman who has mastered her emotions, learned how to navigate discomfort with grace, and lives with quiet conviction exudes a natural aura that commands respect, regardless of her material possessions or marital status. It's important to recognize that being married to a wealthy or successful partner does not guarantee inner peace. If a woman feels insecure, unsure of her values, or constantly dependent on external validation, no amount of financial stability can fill that void. True security doesn't come from a bank account, it comes from knowing who you are and standing by it, especially when life challenges your beliefs. Without that foundation, even the most luxurious lifestyle can feel hollow. Conversely, a woman of character, even without much material wealth, has a way of standing out. She may live a modest life, but her clarity, composure, and confidence shine through in every interaction. She sets boundaries without being hostile. She speaks thoughtfully, listens intently, and respects both herself and others. She doesn't demand attention, but she receives it. People naturally admire her not because of who she marries, but because of the way she moves through the world with integrity. Imagine a woman who is independent, emotionally stable, and not in a rush to prove her worth. She doesn't need to compare her journey to others, nor does she seek validation from her relationship status. Even in solitude, she is complete. Even in silence, she is heard. This kind of woman leaves a mark not because she's loud, but because she's clear. That clarity is magnetic. The beauty of Temperament is that it's democratic, it's open to anyone who's willing to do the work inside. It doesn't discriminate by age, background, or marital status. And most importantly, it doesn't require you to compete. In fact, the more a woman accepts her own pace, values, and individuality, the less she needs to compare herself to someone else's timeline or accomplishments. We need to shift our collective thinking away from the old notion that a woman's success is tied to her partners, Because while a loving relationship can be fulfilling, it should never become the sole measure of a woman's value. You are not just someone's wife, girlfriend, or partner. You are a person with dreams, thoughts, convictions, and choices that are entirely your own. In the end, what truly lasts is not the profession of the person you marry, but the person you become. And if you build yourself with grace, wisdom, and courage, you'll find that the world respects you not for what you have, but for who you are. 2. A good partner is a gift, not a life anchor. There's no denying that having a kind, respectful, and supportive life partner is a beautiful thing. A good husband, as many would say, is something to be proud of, someone who walks with you, stands beside you, and uplifts you when life gets heavy. But somewhere along the way, society began to overvalue this one part of a woman's life. Being married to a good man became a trophy, a benchmark, and sometimes an identity in itself. The problem isn't with celebrating love, it's with placing our entire sense of worth in the hands of someone else. A woman with true inner value doesn't deposit her life into anyone's care, not even the most loving partner. Her value doesn't begin with marriage and shouldn't peak only when someone else walks into her life. Marriage can be meaningful, but it shouldn't become a substitute for selfhood. If a woman only feels at her best when next to a man, then perhaps what she's standing on isn't solid ground. It's borrowed light. A shadow of someone else's success or affection is not a foundation. A fulfilling relationship is not about being rescued. It's about two complete individuals walking together. The image of a woman being upgraded through marriage reflects a mindset that still sees women as incomplete until paired with the right man. But the truth is, a woman becomes her most powerful self when she builds her own identity, when she is guided by clarity, purpose, and personal integrity. A good man doesn't define her worth. He walks alongside the worth she has already built for herself. Too often, we hear phrases like, "He's successful, so she lives a comfortable life," or "She's lucky her husband takes good care of her." Rarely do we pause to ask, what kind of woman is she to inspire that kind of respect and care? What values does she hold? What quiet strength does she carry that makes her presence so worthy of partnership? Being with someone accomplished or admirable is not a sign of personal success. It's a reflection of shared values and mutual growth. A man may be successful, but a woman of substance adds meaning, direction, and emotional intelligence to the relationship. Her character, her intellect, her grace, these are not accessories to someone else's journey. They are forces in their own right. A woman who sees herself clearly, who respects her own time, values, and dreams, doesn't treat love as a ladder. She treats it as a mere something that reflects, not defines. And she knows that no matter how beautiful a relationship may be, her life still belongs to her. Her happiness, peace, and progress aren't outsourced to another person. Yes, a good husband is precious, but he is not the peak of your life. He is a companion, not a savior. He does not complete you. He complements you. And when two whole people come together, they don't lean on each other out of need. They stand with each other in choice, which is far more powerful. At the end of the day, the most beautiful love stories are not about rescue, but recognition. When you bring your whole self into a relationship, and so does your partner, you both get to build something grounded, equal, and true. That kind of union doesn't rely on one person shining more than the other. Instead, it's built on shared light, where no one overshadows, and both grow brighter together. 3. True presence commands respect, not envy. In a world constantly comparing women who have a better husband, who lives more comfortably, who wears what, it's easy to feel the pressure to measure one's worth through the eyes of others. But the women who truly leave a mark are not the ones who invite envy. They're the ones who command respect. And that respect rarely comes from appearance or association. It comes from presence, from self-possession, from the quiet strength of character that doesn't need to shout to be heard. A woman with real presence doesn't seek validation through titles like the lucky wife or the spoiled one. Her sense of value is not tied to how much her husband earns or how often he buys her flowers. She doesn't live to be admired through filtered lenses or complimented for how fortunate she is to be loved. Instead, she lives to feel aligned with herself. She walks a path that is hers, even if it doesn't fit the mold of what others expect. Women with this kind of presence are rarely the loudest in the room, but they are the ones people remember. Not because of flashy handbags or extravagant vacations, but because of how they carry themselves. Their calm energy, composed speech, and uncheckable values radiate something far more enduring than surface-level glamour. This is elegance rooted in clarity, not cost. There's something magnetic about a woman who doesn't compete because she knows her lane. She isn't threatened by others' success, and she doesn't feel the need to constantly prove herself. She celebrates others without losing sight of herself. She can appreciate beauty in someone else's life without assuming it subtracts from her own. That kind of mindset doesn't just foster grace, it builds genuine dignity. True class, after all, isn't about labels. It's about the way you treat people. The way you speak when you're not being watched. The way you hold your boundaries without being defensive. As the quote goes, you can wear ordinary clothes, but if you walk with purpose, stand with quiet confidence, and look others in the eye with respect, you will always appear elegant. That elegance is not about what's worn, it's about what's lived. And perhaps the most dignified choice a woman can make is to define her worth on her own terms, not through rivalry, not through roles assigned to her, but through her own rhythm of growth, her own sense of peace, and her own compass of values. Because the goal is not to be envied, it's to be grounded. To live a life that may not always be glamorous from the outside, but is rich with meaning and self-respect from within. At the end of the day, envy is short-lived. Trends fade. External praise comes and goes. But self-respect, once built, becomes a quiet flame that lights everything around it. A woman with that kind of flame doesn't need a spotlight, she becomes one. 4. Temperament is the foundation that holds all relationships together, even in marriage. In relationships, especially romantic ones, it is easy to lose yourself. Many women, in the name of love, begin to blur the line between devotion and self-erasure. But for a woman grounded in her own essence, love does not mean losing herself. It means expanding without dissolving. That strength, that ability to love deeply without clinging desperately, comes from what we often call grace or poise. It's not loud. It doesn't demand attention, but it is deeply powerful. A woman with poise does not love through fear. She doesn't monitor every move her partner makes, nor does she try to mold herself into someone she's not in order to be enough. Her love is not built on control, insecurity, or desperate need. It is a choice she makes in awareness, not in blindness. She understands that love cannot grow in the shadows of anxiety, nor can it flourish where boundaries are ignored. Instead of clinging, she connects. Instead of chasing, she chooses. She does not see her partner as someone she must keep, but rather as someone who walks beside her because he wants to. And if he stops wanting to, she knows how to release, not because she doesn't care, but because she cares enough about herself not to shrink for anyone. This kind of woman can walk away not out of bitterness, but out of dignity. Her self-worth isn't shattered when things don't work out, because her identity was never solely built around being someone's partner in the first place. She can grieve, she can feel, but she does not crumble. She doesn't leave empty, she leaves whole. Even in love, she remains herself. She doesn't adjust her values to keep someone comfortable. She doesn't silence her voice just to avoid conflict. She shows up as she is with clarity, kindness, and courage, and she expects to be met in return. Not because she demands perfection, but because she knows the kind of love that nurtures growth cannot exist without mutual respect. There is a saying that captures this beautifully. A woman of poise doesn't try to keep a man, she keeps herself, and he chooses to stay. And there is something undeniably graceful about someone who does not beg to be loved, but instead invites it by being fully herself. Ultimately, it is this sense of inner balance that creates the healthiest, most lasting relationships, not codependence, not emotional chaos, but the quiet steadiness of two whole individuals walking together by choice. And when a woman brings this energy into a relationship, she doesn't have to constantly prove her worth. Her presence speaks for itself. In a world that often tells women they must adapt, bend or sacrifice to maintain love, choosing to stay centered is a radical act, but it's also the most freeing. Because love, when it's real, doesn't ask you to disappear. It sees you, values you, and grows with you. And the kind of woman who knows that never fears being alone because she already belongs to herself. 5. Redefining what it means to be ahead as a woman. In a world where titles and associations often define a woman's worth, it's easy to fall into the illusion that we are only as valuable as the people standing beside us. Many are quick to praise a woman for the man she marries, the family she builds, or the lifestyle she gains through her relationship. But at the heart of it, true distinction among women does not come from whose wife you are. It comes from how you write your own story. Being proud of a good partner is natural. A healthy, loving relationship should be appreciated and celebrated. But even the most wonderful spouse cannot replace the importance of your own inner world, your principles, your character, your grace. A strong relationship does not define you. It supports you. And when it's real, it doesn't ask you to stop growing. It walks with you as you evolve. A woman who understands this does not measure herself against others based on who she married or how picture perfect her relationship appears. She doesn't seek validation through labels like wife of a CEO or partner to a successful man. Instead, she finds pride in how she shows up in the world, how she thinks, how she treats others, how she overcomes challenges, and how she holds herself with quiet dignity, even when no one is watching. True self-worth is not situational. It doesn't rise and fall depending on who walks into or out of your life. It is cultivated from within, and that's why it cannot be taken away. A woman with true depth doesn't need to compete, she simply exists in alignment with her values. Whether she walks alone or beside someone, her posture remains upright, her presence remains respected. It's time we shift the narrative. Let's stop asking who a woman belongs to and start noticing who she is. Let's honor not just the outcome of her life, but the journey she takes and the choices she makes along the way. Because in the end, the most admirable women are not necessarily the ones with the most glamorous partners, but the ones who carry themselves with integrity, confidence, and purpose, regardless of who stands beside them. A good partner is a beautiful gift, but your poise, your essence, is the one thing no one can ever take away. Be the kind of woman who, even when walking alone, moves forward with pride. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.